Well. If it's your pal, Exotic Mega Soul Blaze, and welcome back to another video. And once again, we're back with a new normal story, which I'm also gonna include this story in the Halloween stories 2020 in the Halloween stories 2025 playlist, which okay since then because I since I did I mean I did say for myself. I did say how I'm gonna read to you guys some Halloween stories, and also sometimes some normal scary stories, just so that I could save some of the Halloween stories for next year. but all but with all but with all that away, let's do it. Let's get on with the story. And so today's the story is, which caught my attention because mainly because of the thumbnail, the picture, which is the Red Death. And as you can already tell by the description, about a prince who hides in his castle while a terrible plague sweeps across the land. It is based on a classic short story by Edgar Allan Poe called The Masque, The Masque of the Red Death. I, I don't know how to. Okay. I don't know if that's how you pronounce that word. The Masque. The Mask of the Red Death. Beats me. I mean, well, this ought to be interesting. I mean, this because the picture of a red skull, which resembles death, and the title within the picture, the Red Death. But with all the other way, let's see what the story has in store for us. Also, other than that, I'm gonna be copy and pasting the link ScaryForKids in the description below, so you homies can check out when you guys feel like, when you have the time, and send me names of any kind of stories you want me to read. But for now, let's get on with the story. So sit back, relax, and let me get myself locked on as I read the story, The Red Death. So here we go. This is The Red Death. Enjoy. There was a prince. There was a prince named Prospero who lived in a huge castle in the mountains. His servants and courtiers attended to his every whim. The castle had high stone walls and was surrounded by a deep moat. At the entrance, there were giant iron gates and an enormous portcullis over the door. The prince heard rumors that there was a terrible plague sweeping across the land. They called it the Red Death. The disease was highly contagious, and whole towns have been wiped out in a single night. Those who were infected suffered from sudden dizziness and sharp pains, and their skin broke in a red rash. Then, then within min, within minutes, blood would start pouring from their eyes, their nose, and their mouth until they collapsed, writhing around in unbearable pain, and died. As the plague grew nearer, the prince invited 100 of his friends to take refuge in his castle to keep him company. He locked the gates. Bared, bared the windows, and lowered the portcullis to keep everyone else out. Inside, the prince and his guests laughed and danced and made merry, while outside the walls, the poor people suffered and died as the Red Death raged on. To keep his guests entertained, Prince Prospero decided to hold a masquerade ball. He ordered his servants to redecorate 7 rooms, especially for the ball. The first room was painted blue from floor to ceiling. The second was pink. The third was green. The fourth was orange. The fifth was white. And the sixth was purple. My favorite color. Purple! That's my favorite color. The seventh row. The seventh room was completely black. The walls and ceiling were painted black. The carpet on the floor was black. The curtains that hung from the walls were made of black satin. All of the furniture was upholstered in black velvet. On one of the walls, there was a large black clock with a pendulum that swung slowly to and fro, making a loud and monotonous ticking sound. Every hour, the clock would strike, giving a series of loud clangs like the toiling of a bell. None of the rooms had any lights. In each room, the only illumination came from a blazing fire in the fireplace that cast flickering shadows across all the walls. In the seventh room, the firelight cast such strange and frightening shadows on the walls that very few of the guests were brave enough to set foot inside it. The masquerade ball began in the blue room, and the guests were all having fun. Sure, they're having a lot of fun. Everyone was wearing a mask. The musicians played merry songs while the guests danced. They ate the food and drank the wine, they ate the food and drank the wine that had been laid out on the tables for them. Whenever the clock struck the hour, the musicians would stop playing. The guests would stop dancing, and everyone would stand and listen to the dull clanging chime. When the echo of the tolling bell had died away, the guests would move on to the next room, and the revelry would begin again. As the time wore on, they moved from the blue room to the black. They moved from the blue room to the pink room, to the green room, to the orange room, to the white room, and to the purple room, until they found themselves entering the black room. At midnight, the clock began to strike 12, and everyone stopped to listen. As the chimes subsided, the guests became aware of a masked figure standing in the middle of them room. None of the guests had noticed him before. The stranger was tall and gaunt. He was dressed in a dark red cape, and his face was covered by a red mask in the shape of a skull. When Prince Prospero caught sight of this figure standing among the guests, he shuddered in anger. "Who are you?" he demanded hoarsely. "How dare you insult me by coming here without an invitation? Leave my castle this minute, or I will have you killed." The masked figure made no move to leave. Instead, he stood there, staring at the prince. Just then, an unearthly red light illuminated the black room, and the guests became so frightened that they were shaking in their boots. Prospero did not like to be disobeyed. He drew his sword and held it up. Leave now, or I shall slay you myself," he shouted. The masked figure slowly walked towards the prince, and all of the guests drew back, too afraid to stop it. Standing in front of Prince Prospero, the figure reached up with bony hands and took off his mask. The prince let out a sharp cry and dropped his sword. The guests screamed in horror. Behind the mask, there was no face at all, just an empty black void. All of a sudden, Prince Prospero Prince Prospero grew dizzy and felt sharp pains in his sides. His skin broke out into a red rash, and blood started pouring from his eyes, his nose, and mouth. His guests collapsed around him, writhing in agony, and their screams echoed through the 7 rooms. The Red Death had come like a thief in the night, and one by one, the prince and his guests succumbed to the terrible disease. The clock stopped ticking, the fires went out in darkness and decay, and the Red Death triumphed over all. Well, that was a certainly amazing and though well this was a certainly an amazing and and awesome scary story about the Red Death. Yeah, I really love this story. I really like this story a lot. So in the end, the Prince Prospero and the guests has succumbed to their deaths because of the Red Death. You know what this reminds me of? This kind of reminds me of the Black Plague. This is kind of basic. I don't know, but this is kind of like based like based like the Red Death, although it also like just based that the story is based off something from a poet from Edgar Allan Poe. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying, but overall, this was really a great, triumphant, and crazy and enthusiastic story about the Red Death. Yeah, I really love it so much. Let me know what you guys think of the story. But that's all for today. That's all for today. This was the story, the Red Death. Let me know if you guys really love the story. If you do, just give me a sign by liking this video, subscribe, comment, and let me know what Halloween stories you want me to read, and also some normal stories, and by copying by typing the title of the stories in the comments below, and I'll be sure to check them out. But but with all but overall, this was really a great story. Thank you guys so much for sticking around until the end. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.